Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continue today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's The Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Thanks for joining us. It is The Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn back together again. And Ken, I got to tell some secrets. We actually did a lot of socializing this last weekend.
Turn up those levels, Jen.
Turn up those levels. How about that? Is that good?
Yeah. Saturday, we did a little socializing.
Saturday, we turned it up. We did. Mm-hmm. And I won't even tell you, I know you're Mr. Gold, but you're also Mr. Pizza.
Well, of course. Why else would we live? It
was cheat day. Yes. And you brought in some delicious prime pizza, which was really good. But I got to tell you, we had a really interesting conversation, and that is going to start the topic of our show today.
It was. We were just trying to picnic, and all of a sudden I'm getting bombarded with questions.
You were like in the hot seat, but it was so funny. I looked at you. I said, Ken, this is what we have to talk about because your answers were so good and so heartfelt, and I really thought it was interesting to share. So that's what we are going to do today on the program. But before we get started, we always like to go back in time to figure out just how in the heck we got in this mess that we're in today. And that means the spending that's out of control, the inflation that's out of control, the stock market, which feels sort of propped up. We just know that our dollar isn't going as far as it used to. And Ken, it started a little before 1971, but certainly Richard Nixon played a little hand in it when he said, this gold standard, please hold my beer. And he said, we're not going to back money with gold anymore. We're not going to use those dollars and back it with gold. Forget that. We want fiat currency backed by nothing, and let's spend away.
It was the moment, Jen, that our gold dollar became a credit dollar.
I like that. So our gold dollar became a credit dollar. That's really important.
Backed by debt.
Do you think Richard Nixon said that?
I'm going to suspend the credibility of gold and the dollar and the gold and just wipe it out.
It out.
Give me a link. But, yeah, I mean, that's what happened.
It
is.
And
now the whole world is on a fiat system, and government's broke. And I'd like to just kind of bring up one little chart that we were looking at this week.
Yeah.
Producer Mike, this is the annual interest payments of the United States of America based on our debt, which is a little under $35 trillion, right?
Wow.
So the interest, March 2024, is about $1 trillion a year, which is more than we spend on military.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So next will probably be Social Security and that sort of thing, right? Which is supposed to be empty by the early 2030s. We'll get into that on another show. The government is going to increase debt. We are entering a debt spiral. The debt will probably be $50 to $100 trillion over the next 5 or 10 years. So that means that by April of 2025, believe it or not, the interest on our debt could be anywhere from $1.2 to $1.7 trillion. So we're going to print that money to just pay interest. And what people don't realize, Jen,
in a year's time.
Yeah, in 1 year.
Right.
And then it happens the same thing the next year, and then the next year, and the next year, right? The government is entering a debt spiral, as I would like to call it, And the more interest that it pays, the more credibility that our government loses.
Right.
With its potential lenders. Now, remember who the lenders used to be? Other countries.
They don't want anything to do with this anymore.
Can you blame them?
No.
So instead of debt and instead of dollars, these other countries are thinking about different ways, that they can diversify. How could we protect our assets? The United States in 2022, when they sanctioned Russia and they kicked Russia off the SWIFT banking system, weaponized the dollar. They made a very, very big mistake.
So we started this game basically, right? By weaponizing things?
Well, to that degree, yeah. We've weaponized the dollar before against Iran where there were sanctions and stuff. But these countries now are banding together, the BRIC nations, and they're thinking about different ways to own gold. They're thinking about different ways to have their reserves, which used to be in dollars and government debt. Now, gold is starting to take place of some of those paper products. And that brings up something relevant that we were asked this weekend.
Yeah.
We were asked, what is the best way to own gold? And what are the different ways to own gold? And actually, that's actually the title of today's show, Jen, right? What is the absolute best way to own gold?
And I think it's a really big question because a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to get gold. I'm going to protect myself, hedge against inflation, privacy, all the issues that we talk about.
Right.
But then they go, how am I going to do it?
Yeah,
and
how should I do this?
There are a lot of people who tell you a lot of things about how you should own gold. So let's go through the list of things because you want to own gold in the absolute best way.
I broke it down into 4 ways.
Let's look through them. Okay.
Yeah.
So number 1, you've got physical gold.
Physical gold. You could own gold in coin form. You could own gold in a bar. There are bullion products like that are based on weight and purity. Countries have sovereign mints like the United States, which makes the eagle and the buffalo, and the Canadian mint has the maple leaf, and the Australian mint has the kangaroo.
Yep. And you brought these in before
Yeah,
for
and
visual
we've seen
aids.
these, and these are tangible assets that you could hold in your possession. And also you could own gold in round form or a bar.
Right.
Which means that typically it's made by a private company. It's a certain purity, 24 karat gold, 4 nines. And physical gold is a great way to own gold.
And the only difference, just because I think, if we're talking simple here and we're kind of getting back to basics, if you own something that is obviously made by the United States, you can actually use it, right?
Well, some states, we mentioned last week, 23 states are actually changing laws to make gold and silver more like legal tender,
right,
which is money. So coinage could be very important over the next 10 years. I believe it will be. And when you talk about the United States, this is where we live. There's basically one main coin, which is the eagle, which comes in gold and silver, and then also a gold buffalo. So the choices are, there's not many, which is good.
Right. And so those are your options. But bars, coins, gold that you can hold at home.
And also the numismatic older coins, the coins that survived the confiscation of gold, those still exist. So there's a lot of people that feel that's good constitutional money.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's physical gold. That's at home. You hold on to it. What about this gold ETFs? Because that's an exchange-traded
fund.
Okay, exchange-traded fund.
Yeah, if you think the price of gold is going to go up, or if you think the price of gold is going to go down, I guess you could short an ETF, which means that you're betting that it goes down. But more or less, you own paper gold.
Okay.
So maybe you have a stockbroker account, or maybe you trade yourself, and you want to own shares, and you want to follow the price of gold. So if you think the price of gold is going to go up, you can buy or own gold ETF shares. If you think the price of gold is going to go down, you can bet against and sell short, or have shares that you go against an ETF. So this is a way to own gold in paper form. It's a very convenient way to own it in your stock account, and usually people do it because they can trade in and out, and the fees are pretty small.
Right. It's a more active way probably to hold gold as well.
I would say it's a convenient way to own gold. It's something that people can do in their existing brokerage account, and it's something that they say is, very easy to do.
All right. Next on your list, futures and options.
This is for more of a sophisticated investor.
Perfect.
Yes.
You're speaking my language.
Where you can trade different options or futures contracts where you're betting that the price of gold or silver will be at a certain point at a certain time. So it involves more risk, but it also involves more leverage. So, possibly bigger return, bigger risk. So for those people that know that type of market, they understand, the complexities of futures and options, contracts. That's another way that you may be able to own gold. All right.
And then you also have, of course, mutual funds, which people know about.
Yeah. And a lot of people have funds in their 401ks or their IRAs where it's pooled money,
right?
Where it's managed by a fund manager. And then they have different companies that make up the mutual fund that maybe are involved in gold, or, mining companies. You might have actual ETFs even within the mutual funds, or different types of ways to own gold, which are kind of pooled together. So that's another convenient way, paper-wise, to own gold.
So if you're thinking about gold and precious metals, and we're going to talk about before you figure out how you want to own gold, you got to figure out why you want to own gold.
Well, that's important. Why?
Which was a huge topic of conversation at our barbecue this weekend. I mean, literally, people were peppering you with questions, pardon the barbecue pun, about why you wanted to own gold. And you really spoke from your heart about why this was the case for you.
Well, I think it's relevant, Jen. I think it's more relevant today than ever because of the debt situation that we just talked about. And we also had another pie chart.
Yes.
Yeah, and this was actually a breakdown of all of the different types of investments that you can do. Equities, private equity, real estate, fixed income. Those make up, and cash, those make up the majority of where people's money are. Correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, if you look at, there's one little part on there that's a little sliver.
It's teeny tiny.
And that's the amount of percentage of assets that are in gold.
Gold and precious metals is at 1% on this pie chart.
Yeah, believe it or not, you just said it's 1% of all of the assets that are out there. So the majority of people that even understand or maybe that are asking these questions probably don't own gold yet.
Right.
And gold was $300 20 years ago. Now gold is over $2,300, which is a factor of 8 20 years later. So they've seen the price go up. They see the dollar has gone down. They see that our dollar buys less every day. They see the banks don't give us enough interest, to take on that kind of risk. They don't trust the government. But still, even these 4 different ways to own gold, physical gold or gold ETFs or futures or options or mutual funds, still people are not convinced that some of their money should be into gold.
Right. So we're going to talk about why they should put their money into gold. Again, we went through the ways that you can own gold. Let's dive into the reasons that you want to own gold. And by the way, more than just want to own gold, need to own gold, given the current state of affairs right now, because there is nothing but chaos, nothing but overreach, and you want to be able to protect yourself. That's really where gold and precious metals come in. You can get more information. And by the way, see a full product catalog at MidasGoldGroup.com. MidasGoldGroup.com. If you are interested in adding to your collection or starting to hold gold, MidasGoldGroup.com. MidasGoldGroup.com. You can also call 855-322-4653. 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-4653. We're going to go into some of the reasons why Ken has gold as the Gold Standard Radio Show continues.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back. It is the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn back together again. We thank you all for joining us. And every week we talk about how gold is there to protect you, how gold is there to help give you a sense of freedom. And really, we love personal responsibility around here. It gets you away from the market. But what I thought was interesting is this weekend, Ken, we were just hanging out at a barbecue, right? This was not a work event. We were just hanging out, having a good time. And a friend of mine actually was
Mike Horn makes a heck of a hot dog.
He sure does, man. Brush with olive oil. It's the whole secret. But a couple of friends, they were saying, we really we have gold.
Yeah,
And-
some of them did.
Yeah, some of them did. Some of them didn't. But the question was, why do you own gold, Ken? Because you don't just hang out with the Midas Gold Group gang. No, no, no. You actually are a gold customer yourself. You have gold at home. And I said, this is a really great question because there are a million reasons to own gold and everybody's got their own personal take. And I think it's interesting to explore yours.
Yeah, and actually before, Jen, when we were talking about the different ways to own gold,
Yeah.
I guess you could add mining shares on there too, where you can buy individual shares of a company.
Sure, as they're mining away, right?
Yeah, they're looking for gold or, but that's a little more risky and you got to know what you're doing. But I own gold because I believe financial privacy is very important.
Right.
I own gold because I know that our dollar is going to lose significant value from this point on and every day going into the future. It's no doubt that our dollar is going to lose tremendous value.
And I'm not downplaying here. I'm not trying to besmirch you.
Right.
But it's obvious that that's what's happening.
Well, it's
with the
obvious
dollar,
to
right?
us,
Yeah.
but for some people, they don't understand now
Sure.
why a $10 hamburger is now 20. But I also own gold because I know that our government is going to spend and continue to spend beyond their means, and they're going to have record deficits that eventually the debt system is not going to be able to hold. It's going to be record debt in the tens of trillions of dollars, and there will be a debt crisis at some point, which will ultimately lead to a currency crisis.
Right.
We all know that there's inflation, which is basically the devaluation of our money. That's another reason why I own gold. I own gold because there's a lot of geopolitical events that are going on, like Russia, China, Israel,
Yeah.
Middle East. Seems like it's never ending, right? Seems like we're always in a conflict somewhere. I own gold because the banking system is on the brink of insolvency. And actually, the FDIC came out last week and said there was 63 banks that just made their list that are pretty much imminently just, done. We're seeing a big corporate commercial real estate problem developing where a lot of these buildings are selling for 50 or 40 or 30% of what they were worth just 10 years ago, being converted into apartments. I just read an article today, a big Xerox building that was worth $100 million, then someone just bought it for $25 million.
Wow.
And they're going to convert it to apartments.
All housing.
Yeah. So these are the reasons why I own gold. These are the reasons that a lot of other countries and central banks are starting to own gold. And I would say that that's very important because the reasons why I own it have a lot to do with the way that I want to own it. I don't own gold because I think that the price is the reason why I should own gold.
Right.
Actually, I don't even pay attention to the price.
I was going to
much.
ask you about that. The price doesn't matter to you, right?
No. What matters to me is getting the ounces and being able to move my money around privately while I still can before we have some sort of monitored, controlled system, which is another reason why it's important that you have purchasing power outside of a system that we all know is going digital to at least some degree. We all know that it's a dangerous digital system because our money could be turned off or on whenever the powers that be
Despite the
deem
crisis or maybe something you say. I mean, think about it. We saw how much
Right.
control was exerted over us when we were during the COVID pandemic, right?
That's right. And that was just a little taste.
Just a taste.
So that's going to continue. So these are the reasons why I own gold. As who knows? Maybe I'm forgetting. If I'm forgetting something, let me know. But
No, I think you've hit
it's
all the
pretty
reasons
much
that you can
dollar,
think of,
debt,
right.
banking system, geopolitical, store of value, inflation. Those are the main reasons why people own gold. But the most important reason to me is the privacy aspect.
Because you can keep it with you.
I can control it. I could, if I need to sell some of it, I can. If I need to hand some of it over to, a legacy as a legacy for someone who inherits it someday privately, that's what I want to do. So in my opinion, considering all of those reasons, the best way to own gold, if we consider owning gold in a physical form, a gold ETF, futures and options, mutual funds, or gold mining shares, the only way that I have privacy and it's not connected to a system that's dying, and the only way that I can control it myself and monitor it is in physical form.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that I want to own gold in bars or coins, that sort of thing. I would ask anybody, if you think that the system is dying and the system is sick,
Mm-hmm.
and if you think that our government is drowning in debt, why on earth would you want to hold your gold assets tied to a system like that?
Right. If you know it's sick, why are you keeping yourself attached to it?
And the paper market is sick. So if we're looking for tangible assets, that means you want to try and diversify out of paper assets and you want to hold more tangible assets. So in my opinion, gold and silver, there's other ways too. You could own land as tangible, right?
Sure. something to hold
Diamonds,
on to.
Art.
They're a girl's best friend. Hunter Biden's art, I hear, is very valuable these days.
Might have got a little bit less valuable today. But I would just say that one easy way in a tangible form is gold and silver because you kind of know what it's worth. You see a price here or there. The other stuff is a little bit harder to sometimes sell. Also, you may need larger amounts of capital to wrap up big pieces of land or possibly diamonds or that sort of thing. But gold, every single American could afford a gram of gold.
Yeah.
Every single American typically could afford to move a little portion of their IRA or their 401k into gold. It's more important than ever. It's not a market where you just have to be a multimillionaire to be able to get into gold. Everybody should be considering diversifying at this point because of what's going on, but more importantly, because of where we're headed.
Well, and I think, ultimately, and look, gold is for everybody. Obviously, you said that everybody can at some point probably afford to get a little bit of gold. But I look at gold, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, really as a great tool for the middle class because it's middle class people that are going to be looking around when retirement comes or when they need something and go, gosh, my money that I worked so hard for is not worth the same amount that it was when I stocked it away. And now I need to have that hedge against inflation. Gosh, I really don't need to have big government over here, or maybe I need to get to the bank right away. I mean, for a million reasons, I think it ultimately becomes a great wealth preservation tool for specifically the middle class. I mean, the wealthy can sometimes buy their way out of problems, but I think for those of us who find ourselves kind of in the middle, this is a great way to protect yourself.
Yeah, and I would say the multimillionaires, they have a portion of their money in gold. But I would say for the people that have net worths between $100,000 and let's say 2 or 3 million, it's very, very important because that's the class that you're talking about.
Right.
That's the class that is pretty much being wiped out with everything that's going on.
You got it.
So people wake up, listen to what's going on, and you have an opportunity to do something about it. The writing's on the wall. I don't think the problem is over the next few years is having too much gold. I think it's probably going to be having too much money
Paper
connected.
money.
Yeah, connected to a sick system.
Yeah, 855-322-4653. That's the number for Midas Gold Group. Give them a call this week, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653. You can get more information online as well at MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com. And if you are more about doing your transactions in person, this is what I love about Midas. You can go see them face-to-face in Thousand Oaks or in Phoenix, Arizona. And just quickly here, Ken, because I like to underscore the conclusion in our last moment.
Yes.
We set out to ask the question about how to own gold and why to own gold. And your suggestion is own physical gold and do it to protect yourself.
Yeah, and
right?
if you're doing it for the reasons that you and I are talking about, we're not just betting on the price of gold. We're doing it for all of these other reasons.
Shouldn't have
mainly
anything to do with the stock market or the cost of gold.
Privacy, freedom, control. I would say those are the most important reasons why people that we speak to want to own gold.
Yeah, and I also like to keep a little bit aside to protect myself against that digital currency, which I know is coming. 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD. That's from Midas Gold Group. You can always get more information. MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com, America First Patriots, veteran-owned, a great group of people. You're not getting a call center when you talk to the folks at Midas. 855-322-4653. Thanks for joining us. It is the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.